Cool, awesome. So thank you all for coming today. Today we have Sean from Magic, formerly Fortmatic, to come talk to us about different dApps and stuff that they, helped build on Ethereum and now on Tezos. And then he's gonna go do a presentation and then a quick live demo. And
Thanks.
Yeah, Sean, take it away. Thanks.
Thanks, Spencer. Hey guys, I'm Sean, I'm CEO of Magic. Today we're going to talk about building decentralized applications using Magic and Tezos. So many of you might know us formerly as Fortmatic. We're a developer SDK where you can add passwordless authentication to your application with a few lines of code.
Quickly, sorry to interrupt. I think your screen share is like a square for some reason. It's not the.
Is it better now?
Yeah, there you
go. Okay. Okay, is now better?
Yeah.
Or is it?
No.
Okay, cool. Sorry. Via Magic Link, which is a one-click login using your email, like Slack or Medium. With every account that's created on Magic, every user has a key pair that's associated with it. And we do a lot of other, kind of security and availability functionalities, such as, redundancy for the emails to ensure that it gets delivered and failovers if needed. And Magic has led a new way to authenticate to apps in the Ethereum ecosystem. Without forcing users to use browser extensions or keeping track of a kind of seed phrase. We've onboarded over 6,500 clients from the Ethereum ecosystem, with over hundreds of notable clients from this emerging market who are collectively valued over billions. User experience is our craft. With our optimized user research and themable user experience, we're averaging at over 84% conversion rate on Magic signup flow, raised from 10% using just browser extensions. Recently, Magic has just launched integration with Tezos. And throughout the year, we'll be supporting over 30 blockchains. And we're also available to multiple platforms, such as iOS, Android, and Unity. So what is a dApp or decentralized application? It essentially comes down to users talking to some sort of a user agent that manages their keys. In this case, like Magic or some other mobile wallets or browser extensions, which talks to a sort of JavaScript SDK, right? In Tezos' context is what they call Conceal.js or Taquito, and which through this JS SDK, the developer is able to interact with the blockchain. So, sorry, I just saw a chat message. Okay. Yeah, and there's a lot of different type of dApps that you can build that would be really cool to see in the Tezos ecosystem as well, right? And obviously, a lot of people talk about DeFi or decentralized finance, right? In this case, this application, token sets, it's almost like Wealthfront for your crypto, right? And DeFi actually do represent a large chunk of dApps in the Ethereum ecosystem. And we are seeing some, immense growth in the space. So it'd be really cool to see that happen on the Tezos ecosystem as well. This was recently just announced called New Goods, which is powered by Foundation's bonding curve technology. Whereas, as you can see, NFTs or non-fungible tokens are not just for games like CryptoKitty, but also in this case, to form dynamic price for digital collectible goods, where prices change based on inventory, which is really interesting. Also, next we have Pool Together, which I think is a really, really innovative idea, where lossless lottery is achieved by players deposit to a pool, which interacts with decentralized finance to generate interest. The winner gets the total accrued interest from all players every week. It's really cool because it's something that's not possible traditionally without leveraging the blockchain. We also have decentralized social networks like Cent.co, absolutely needed in our future. If you're familiar with the recent scrutiny Twitter has received from the president introducing fact check. And then we have things like Gnosis Safe, which is what they call smart contract wallets, which allows multiple signature transactions where funds are only transacted when a threshold of approvers are met, right? To further boost security. You can have other cool functionalities with smart contract wallets, like withdrawal limits, a time lock for large transactions, or recovery where you can cancel transactions anytime, or even some sort of a dead man switch. Blockchain is also just beyond the money, right? But a completely new generalized infrastructure that leads to a more secure and authentic internet. And here's why. Over the last 40 years, the internet has gone through several major transformations. And every one of them follows a very similar shift in paradigm from closed, more costly and centralized systems to more open, more efficient, decentralized systems. And this began with the evolution from internetworking to the World Wide Web more recently. And more recently from private clouds to public clouds over decades. And today, we're on the verge of the next paradigm shift, and the need for an infrastructure like this has never been greater. Basically, historically, two forces accelerated the end of one paradigm and the beginning of the next, right? The one force is democratization, where we move from siloed centralized platforms to decentralized platforms that are distributed, highly scalable, and owned by people collectively. And second force is automation, which enables significant reduction in cost and complexity that makes new businesses models possible. And over the last 20 years, we've all witnessed a massive proliferation of new internet platform companies that provide developers with the essential services to rapidly build applications. And today, a developer can easily access services for compute, data storage, payments, identity in ways that previous generations of developers just couldn't, right? And that's the good news. But here's the bad news of what happened as a result. The overly centralized nature of these platforms have introduced this too big to fail level of risks for developers, businesses, and users alike. It's kind of like a teetering Jenga tower, where if the wrong piece falls, the entire application stack, or worse, the business may completely collapse. The millions of developers, businesses, and end users that heavily depend on these platforms are sadly more vulnerable than they realize, right? The number of threats is immeasurable. A company could go out of business, get hacked, restrict availability, unfairly increase pricing, or abuse power resulting from their platform lock-in status. And if that's not enough, many companies do face direct competition from the very platforms on which they rely, right? If this sounds familiar, it's because it does happen every day. This comes down to the arrival of crypto networks or blockchains like Tezos, which really signals the beginning of the end for the closed platform era, right? These distributed computer networks use consensus mechanisms to store state, compute, and ensure availability, right? And furthermore, the inherent strength of decentralized economies are used to incentivize or punish behaviors, providing an unprecedented level of security and protection for developers and businesses, right? In this paradigm, the integrity and honesty of network participants are significantly more dependable. The result is that developers, businesses, and the customers they serve now all have a path to liberation from the potentially systemic risks they incur by relying on closed platform providers. And the new paradigm is open platforms, whereas smart contracts act sort of like a permanent Lambda function, where developers now have 100% confidence in a given line of code that can serve as a trusted building block forever. And as well as the state that is stored on the blockchain as well. And what's really cool with this new paradigm is also that no servers are required, because developers are only interacting with homogeneous nodes that powers the blockchain. And the answer is really Magic removes all of these barriers. And the problem is why don't everyone use decentralized networks like this, right? And the main reason is because it's really hard to manage keys. And under the hood, Magic has a really sophisticated system called delegated key management that is used to manage users' private keys without ever being able to see it. We essentially took the highly secure and popular hardware wallets used in Web3 and brought them to the cloud via hardware security modules to enable users to recover their accounts if they lose them. It is also a non-custodial SOC 2 compliant architecture, a standard pioneered by industry leaders like Coinbase or Gemini. And keys in our model are generated locally on the client and encrypted directly with these cloud hardware security modules. Magic will never be able to see the private keys at any part of the flow, as the key exchange completely bypasses the Magic servers, therefore significantly increasing security and trust. And also to give users full control of their funds, they'll be able to export or import their keys at any time, which is coming very soon. So by solving identity for developers, Magic clears the path for exploring and tapping into the vast potential of crypto networks, making their applications less dependent on a handful of tech giants. And simultaneously, the open and decentralized nature of crypto networks also allows users' identity to be portable and self-sovereign, instead of having to trust centralized providers such as Facebook, right? Giving developers independence to build relationships directly with their users rather than having to rely on a third party, and also mitigating the security risk and liabilities. And for once in the history of our internet, developers can now easily leverage one piece of technology to implement all functionalities across identity, finance, and infrastructure. And so, with all that context, I'm just going to dive into some demos on how to develop with Magic, and also with Magic and Tezos for your hackathon project. So I'm just gonna get started on that. So you can find our service at magic.link, and to start, you can hit the documentations link. And here we'll go through a super easy kind of hello world example, and then we'll dive into the more like blockchain focused stuff. So the hello world essentially just helps you log in, log out as a user, and so there's a hello world template to start this tutorial that we've created. So as you can see, there's not a lot of, there's a boilerplate code that you can copy and paste the code from the documentation here. So I'm just gonna start. To begin, you can install the Magic SDK. In this case, it's through a script tag, but you can also install Magic using NPM packages, say if you're working with a React application or such. Cool, so that's copy and pasted in. And now we will initialize the Magic instance by creating the Magic object. So here it's asking me for a test publishable API key. And so you can get that by logging into the Magic dashboard. So here I'm going to log into my account. Cool. So for our dashboard experience, we do also use Magic authentication as well as an example for our developers. Cool. Cool. So on my phone, I'm logging in. Cool. Now I've clicked the link. I now have gained access to the Magic developer dashboard. So, here I can create a new application. Let's call it Tezos demo app. Click save. And here you can see the test publishable key that the code example is requesting. So just copy and paste that here. Cool, now that's done. We can move on to the next step. So this is the boilerplate code to render the UI. If the user is logged in, show who's logged in. If the users log out, then we show a login form. Cool, pasted that here. And then next is to implement the login handler. Which is super straightforward. We grab the email field here from the form field here. And also it's really just one line to authenticate users. It's magic.auth.login with magic link, and you pass in the email. So let's just copy this in. Cool, now we get to the last step, which is implementing the logout handler. As you can see, it's also quite straightforward, where it's one line of code to log the user out. And boom, now we've copy and pasted all the code. And we can see the app live here on Code Sandbox. So let's just log in to my account. Yep, also email on my phone. You can also click it on your laptop as well. Yeah, once I click on the link, I'm logged in as current user at this email. So yeah, that's the super quick Hello World example. But I can also show you how to use Magic with Tezos as well here. So let's just log out. So yeah, so here in our documentation, you can see the Magic Tezos example, and how Magic really works is Magic as a core is a really simple authentication tool, but with Magic extensions, you'll be able to extend the authentication core to other blockchains, such as Tezos. So in this case, to enable Magic working with Tezos, you'll have to install the Magic -xt /Tezos extension. So as you can see here, you're importing Magic object, and then you're importing the Tezos extension from Magic. And here, you're initializing the Magic object, but also you can pass in an array of extensions. In this case, we're initializing the Tezos extension, and by passing in a Tezos RPC node URL. So, and also Magic is completely based. The Magic Tezos extension is completely based on the Conceal.js library that is popular in the Tezos ecosystem. So let's make a basic application that can send a transaction. So let's go to the Conceal.js example first. So here we've created a kind of what I call a kitchen sink, which is a bunch of functionalities that you can do with Tezos using Magic. So, there's basic boilerplate on the display. There's also, smart contract deployment. There's also just sending like a regular transaction. So we're going to walk through, all of that. But before you can start sending transactions on the Tezos blockchain, you need to acquire some test XDZ, which is Tezos native currency for the test network. And to make things easier, the Magic team has created a Tezos faucet here. So you can access that from the documentation. And basically to claim 10 test XDZ, you can log in with your email here. So once again, I'm going to log in on my phone. As you can see here, you can actually brand the emails to your own logos and brand color, which is a pretty cool kind of customizability feature. Cool. And once I'm logged in, I've now just received 10 test Tezos native currency. So it takes a little bit to show up here, but this is how you get some test XDZ to start. And now I can go back to the code sandbox example here. Since I'm already logged in, I'm automatically logged in on this page as well. And here you can kind of basically just play around. So let's try sending a transaction here. So just copy and paste another address. Send 3 Tezos to this address. Click send transaction. Cool. Now the transaction is submitted. Note that there's not any kind of transaction details confirmation that's required. So we can actually let developers completely kind of white labeled experience and have full control over their UX. So yeah, as the same way you can kind of track this on the Tezos scanner. Yeah, but things takes a little bit to show up here. And also, you can basically hit this button to deploy a smart contract. Yeah, once this transaction is completed. In the meanwhile, as you can see, you can kind of invoke the Tezos transactions using the conceal.js library method signatures. So send transaction operation, and you can find a lot of information about that here. Yeah, it's a pretty comprehensive list of functionalities you can do with conceal.js, and hence we picked it as a base for our Magic Tezos extension. Cool. Yeah, and now you can see that the smart contract is successfully deployed as well. So yeah, that concludes the demo, and I'm here if you guys have any questions.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Does anyone have any questions? You can toss it in the chat or in the Q&A box. Okay. Seems like there's no questions so far. Yeah, so if any of you have any questions about any of this, feel free to just throw the questions in the Discord. That will be a place for different hackathon partners to answer your developer questions as well. And as usual, this workshop will be uploaded to YouTube. So if you want to review any material, you can go there again. And yeah, otherwise, thanks a lot for your time, Sean. Really appreciate it. It's super helpful.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Spencer. All right.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.